if you've been married for X amount of years, like you can't undo all those things. You have to come to this place where like, how do I start to change from this place?
What's your priority when it comes to your relationship? Do you want a okay relationship? Do you want a stale relationship? When I talk to guys all the time, I ask them to rate their health, to rate their business, to rate their marriage, to rate their connection with God, and I give them 4 options. Option is fucked, shitty, good, or great.
This is Vivian Velasis.
And this is Raul Velasis.
Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the God, Money, Sex podcast. My name is Vivian Velasis, and I am here with the love of my life.
My name is Raul Velasis, and we are on. And we had a couple of challenges before getting off. Want to share what happened with your son?
I mean, things are always happening, you know. But
when he's in trouble, he's your son. When he does something good, he's my son.
That's right. You know, it's so different now because he's actually an adult now. So he is 18 years old, and you know, he had an accident with his friends, and he actually just drove himself to urgent care. And then he calls me and he's like, well, this is where I am. This is what happened. Can you pick me up? And I'm like, wow, like what a sense of just responsibility that's now on him. And I just love the fact that, you know, he still relies on me and wants to call me, and, you know, that's all great. But just the fact that has taken that responsibility.
You know, one of the reasons why I want to start with that is because we have to adapt, adjust, and execute in life. Like in life, we're all going to have challenges. It's never going to be like a beautiful rainbows and roses every single day. Like you're going to have challenges. And phone calls like that are either going to take you off where you're going, or you're going to adapt and adjust and continue to go. So you did a great job just managing your state, not freaking out, and just going there to take care of him. And you know what? And I called him and I said, "Are you good?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm good, Dad. I just sprained my ankle. I'm good."
And you know, like in the past, I think I would have like, you know, no mother likes to get that phone call. It's like, oh, I'm in urgent care, or I'm in the hospital, wherever you are. But I think it's like, you know, the more that you just trust that, okay, it had to happen this way, and not to say like, you know, accidents are the best thing. They're not. But it's like, how do you just, okay, like you said, adapt and adjust. And he was mad. He was just like, just frustrated, a little anxious. But I'm like, you know, you have to always find the gift, and you get to. And when we're driving back, and then it's like we see this beautiful sunset, and it's like, you know, God is so good all the time, and we have to learn to praise him even when the things are going wrong.
Yeah, and that's what happened. When I heard the news, you were here in the office. I just said a prayer. I said, God, let your will be done. Yeah. I know you could take care of my son. I know you always deliver. So there was zero like worry about the situation. When I called him, he was fine, and we just got on with the show. So we're here now, and we had a couple of videos we want to share with you. What in particular caught Vivian's attention, because we've had this conversation in the past.
We always have this conversation, and I'm like, I'm so happy to hear from somebody else. And this video I liked because I've been following her. Her name is Emily. Sex with Emily, Dr. Emily, and she just always has a lot of insight. And I tell my queens all the time, I'm like, if we're not learning about sex education, if we're not taking about learning or taking back our sexuality, then of course we're going to fall into this rut. Of course we're going to feel like, okay, like I'm not doing enough, I'm not being enough. It just comes to like learning. And sometimes it's even unlearning things that you know. But when it comes to sex, I feel like there's more learning to do.
Just watch this and then we'll discuss.
Yeah. How do we make it the best year yet when it comes to our sex life, our relationship? And the first thing you got to do is you got to prioritize your sex life. Like,
that's right.
And your relationships. Like, have you even prioritized it? So here's some examples if you're stuck. Ready? According to a sex survey in 2019, 47% of people said their sex life was better than last year, which is awesome, but here's what wasn't so great. 42% of people desired more sex. 27%, here's the problem with their sex life. It was boring. 27% of people had boring sex too often. 21% wanted more variety. 13% had plain, just bad sex. Just flat out bad.
I'm in that 13%.
Yeah. I've had so much bad sex. Not last year, but you've all benefited from my bad sex because that's why I'm here. I was like, enough with the bad sex. I'm going to become a sex expert. And 12% said they had sex with someone that they shouldn't have.
I think that needs to be higher. I don't
That's
know what you
higher.
think.
How many people? Right, exactly. Oops, slipped and fell on a penis. That's happened to me. I'm like, God damn it, did I really have sex with them? So what I hear from people most is that like they are bored. And they've never really talked to their partner about it. And they've never tried anything new, or they've never, like we heard about earlier from John. He's like, oh yeah, I was with my wife for 26 years, and for 6 months, I really attempted to talk to her about it. And she was just shut down. And she wouldn't listen. And so it's a practice, but it's like you have to keep at the conversation. One way to make that happen and to define it is to have a sex schedule. I know that's not sexy, but if you and your partner both decide you want to have better sex, like you want to have more sex, put it on the calendar.
Put it in the calendar. That is right.
It's so many things in there that we could unpack. You know, the statistics.
I love it.
What I got there is that there's people having good sex. Only 27% people are having bad sex. So that's a good statistic. I'm a numbers guy.
Yeah, but then she said think 42% or something like that. Like they're bored.
Well, 42% are bored. And they want to, I think.
They want better sex.
They want better sex. I think if you ask anybody, if you ask me about my business, do I want a better business? Of course I want a better business, right? Of course I want to have more revenue. Of course I want to serve more people. So I think if you ask people, do you want better sex? Of course we want to have better sex, because it's never going to be like,
no, I don't want it.
I don't want to improve, right? So you have to take that from consideration.
Right, but I think the challenge comes when, like she was saying, like, the guy that called or whatever, he was in a marriage for 26 years and then he tried to talk to his wife for like 6 months. I think that's the part where we fall short. Like we're in a long-term relationship and he thinks that he could undo what has been done in 26 years in 6 months. So if in 6 months I didn't get it done, it's like most of us want to walk away from it instead of really finding a solution. And I know, like, I'll share this with me, like, when we actually hired someone to help us, when we hired our sex coach, she gave us so much insights in our marriage and things that we could do individually and together, that it's like, wow, that was like probably like in our 10-year mark when we did that. And for me, it was like such an information overload, right? It's like, where do I start? How do I do this? But I think it's really important to know that if you've been married for X amount of years, like you can't undo all those things. You have to come to this place where like, how do I start to change from this place?
What's your priority when it comes to your relationship? Do you want a okay relationship? Do you want a stale relationship? When I talk to guys all the time, I ask them to rate their health, to rate their business, to rate their marriage, to rate their connection with God, and I give them 4 options. Option is fucked, shitty, good, or great. Okay? So in marriage, you're fucked if you're planning a divorce, if you want out. Shitty is you want to have sex, but you're not having enough sex, or you love her, you don't know if she loves you, and you're there out of convenience. That's shitty. Right? Good is there is good sex life, there is good connection. Great is like, man, we are soulmates, we can't get enough of each other, and we have intimacy, not just sex, right? So when I look back, very rarely a guy says, it's great, my relationship is great. Mainly because I'm talking to entrepreneurs and overachievers, so the great is always we're always focusing on the next level, right?
Yeah, and there's always room for improvement.
But what in the last 10 years I've been working with men, what I've realized is that their relationship is not a priority at a certain level in their business, because their business is taking most of their time and their energy.
Right.
So the moment that they have so much bandwidth to deal with and sex doesn't become a priority anymore, is a need, but it's not a priority. So we will settle for average sex or just sex, period, because our priority and our energy is focusing on building the business, right? So that's why there's so many sexless marriages out there, because for a certain amount of time that you're married, sex is no longer a priority, because I know you, you know me, I love you, you're not gonna leave me, I'm not gonna look to cheat on you, but I'm gonna use my energy towards something else as opposed to putting the energy to work in our relationship.
Yes, and that's what I love what she says. What we always say ourselves too is like, if you don't schedule something, if it's not in your calendar, it's not going to happen. So I know for us, like one of the shifts that really happened for us is like, it's in our calendar. And you and I, we've gotten so good at like sitting down at the beginning of the year, and if that's the only thing we do, it just has such an impact. We sit down and we look at it, not just in our business aspect, but more like in the personal in depth of like, what is it that that we could do better? How can we improve our sex? How can we improve our marriage? And maybe sometimes those conversations are not ones that you really want to have.
And you know, it sounds boring, like, oh, you want to schedule. It sounds like you're taking out the passion of the relationship, right? But the reality is that if you're busy, like if it's not in your calendar, it's not going to be important.
And to be honest, it's something for me. I mean, as a woman, I don't know, like maybe I'm wrong, but this is what works for me. It's like it actually gives me the anticipation of something that I'm looking forward to. So we're hosting a Valentine's dinner on the 17th of this month. And, you know, we have already scheduled that time. So we're actually going to go and serve the men and the women, love on them, and just have beautiful conversations. And then we're going to have our time together. So for me, it's like I'm looking forward to that. And I'm preparing myself emotionally, physically, and mentally. Is like, how do I serve myself and serve you, love on you, and make that time? So it's like, I don't know, maybe it's my analytical mind that needs to have everything in order. I already know it's in my calendar. I know it's coming, and I am like anticipating that time together.
And for us, that has worked for many years because there's certainty, and we know we talk about what we want to do. There's variety, and that's where it's not boring because we are creating the space to create a better experience. And I think if we just look at our lives, like nobody will say I just want an average business or I want an average relationship. We always want to go above average, but what are we doing to go above average? Are we bringing innovation? Like I always talk to my guys in their business, they have to bring innovation. If you're not innovating, you're going to be out of business.
Right.
So if you don't innovate in your marriage, if you don't innovate in your relationship, of course, sex is going to become boring.
Yeah, and that's something too, like if you're in a relationship, especially I'll speak to the ones that are like in long-term relationships, I think like we really have to continue to grow. And that's something that, you know, we grow differently. Like your speed is like 100 miles an hour. My speed is a little bit slower than that. But I'm always looking for things that's like, where do I want to go? Who do I want to be around? And I sign us up all the time for like different seminars. And, you know, we have one coming up in October with our sex coach again. So it's like those little things that get you to like, okay, what's my next level and where do I want to go? What do I want to learn? Whether it's a book, a seminar, whether it's some sex toys, you know, like whatever it is for you, like allowing yourself to be in that place of learning, of growth, of expansion.
And when I tell people, because I tell my guys all the time that we've hired a sex coach in the past, and they look at me like, are you serious? You hired? Like, how does it work? I said, I want you to think about like for everything we have a coach. We have a fitness coach, we have a business coach, we have mentors in different areas. Why are we maybe shy or averse to have a sex coach? Because if you want to improve, if it's an area that you want to improve, you have to find the best at what they do.
Of course.
You know, and there's people out there that teach this and they have so many ways to help people connect at a deeper level. One of the best things that the sex coach gave us was the framework of your different blueprints.
Mm-hmm. Just so like different love
just
languages.
Like the love language, everybody has a different blueprint. There's a sexual blueprint, there's a sensual blueprint, there's a kinky blueprint, there's an energetic blueprint, and then there's the shapeshifter, right? So you have to know what blueprint turns you on. Like if you are sensual, then you're not gonna be turned on the same way that the sexual is. Right. Or you energetic, you're not gonna be turned on the same way that the sensual gets turned on. So you gotta know which buttons to press and how to approach each blueprint to be able to connect at a deeper level and enjoy it. And it's not gonna be boring.
And I think more than, you know, what buttons to press, I think it's more like knowing what turns you on. Because I know like for women, and this is something that happens like all around. It's like we leave that up to chance. So like we don't know what really turns on our body. And it was funny because I was listening to this girl, Sex with Emily, and she was saying how the doggy position is like most preferred by men and women. But she said something, it was a question that was like, oh my gosh, that has such truth behind it. Because she says like that's when you feel like most disconnected. Even though you're still having connection, like a physical connection, you're actually not connecting. You're not looking at each other, breathing together, finding that connection. You're just out there looking at something else, fantasizing about something else. There is no connection. And that's what's like the preferred position. And I was like, wow, that could be so true because, you know, that happens to be somewhat of a truth that even for me, like checking in, it's like, it's easiest thing. So sometimes it's like just asking yourself, in the sexual action, where could I find more connection in this moment to myself, to my body, which is like the first vehicle. And then second is like, how do I find my connection with my partner, with my spouse, with my lover?
And I think that when you make time for it and you schedule it and you know the time that you have, you're not going to be rushing.
Yeah,
You're going to be able
true.
to
That's
have
so
an opportunity to explore, to see what you like, what you want to try something new. So I think that I'm a big advocate of scheduling your sex dates.
Me too.
I tell my guys all the time, put it in
Me
the
too.
calendar, make it a must, and that we have those conversations that are going to lead up to that as opposed to leaving it to chance.
I love that.
And
So true.
that's where the connection begins. And I think it's all about
Agreed.
serving one another as opposed to like, what do you want from me? What are you gonna get? What am I gonna get from you?
Yeah.
It's about creating that servant mindset in your marriage.
Right. And you're creating that space for not just necessarily sex, but just for connection, like this deep nourishment time that you guys have from each other. And it's something that, especially when like you have a business, you have kids, you have, all these things that are just so loud around you. It's kind of like you disconnect from that and then you come back to this place of
'Cause
connection.
energetically, men need to have sex in order for them to release. So if you have so much pressure in the business and that's what some men feel that they're stuck is because they don't have an outlet to let go of that energy.
Right.
So they go to porn, but it's a superficial.
Momentary. Yeah, it's like a moment thing.
That doesn't serve them in the long run. So if you have a connection with your wife, it's going to help you tremendously to create more energy to build on the business.
Have those conversations and schedule it. It's a must.
So let's show the other video that you showed me, and this is a gateway to like how do we connect at a deeper level from having long-term relationships.
The problem with a lot of marriages isn't that they've fallen out of love. The problem is they've stopped serving each other. When you're dating, all dating is you serving them. You're so happy to do whatever they want to do. You don't complain. You don't gripe about taking out the trash. You take out the trash with a smile on your face. What you're doing is you're serving each other. If you aren't careful, the longer you stay together, the lazier you will become. And what happens in a lot of marriages, you're not getting the service that you want at home, so you start looking like, oh man, he is so cute at work. Oh man, she is so amazing at work. What you're doing is you're looking outside your marriage for something that you're not getting at home. The key to great marriages is serving each other. It's not just serving each other to get each other to sign the contract. It's continuing to serve each other throughout your marriage.
Wow. That's so
Preach
true.
it, Pastor. Preach it.
Serving.
I had a conversation yesterday with one of my friends that he's getting divorced. And we're talking about what are you learning from this, right? And looking back, he says, Raul, there were so many signs that I didn't see it before, but I see it now. Like he wasn't paying attention to his wife. He wasn't having enough sex. And then she started going with her friends, started talking to coworkers at work. And he was, I'm not a jealous type. I'm confident about myself. So I didn't even sweat. I didn't even question it, right? But then the door was open. If a woman feels that she's not
Being taken care of,
or that you actually care enough to be jealous. So I think that at one point in a relationship, jealousy or me being jealous, actually at the beginning, it was a good thing because it made you feel like, man, he cares.
Even now, like I would say, like, being in our relationship 25 years, like I want you to be jealous a little bit because it's like it feels like, okay, like I belong to, I'm yours, like you want me. Because if another guy comes and he starts flirting with me, I want you to protect me. I want you to like be jealous about it. Say something. I know I would. And I'm confident
that's where
in myself.
a lot of men feel that that's weakness. Oh, I'm not, she's not gonna cheat on me, and I'm gonna let her do. But the reality is that
everything's different. But
women need to feel that I'm worth you fighting for me. I'm worth you standing up for me.
And I think there's a balance in that, right? Because you could lash out in jealousy because there's insecurities that are going on inside your heart. And, hopefully you're doing the work and you know who you are and you know who God made you to be. But then there's also that sense of jealousy from, this divine energy that wants to protect and cherish what you have in your marriage because, little things like that start to come in and sometimes they become really big things if you don't catch them at the beginning. If you don't have the conversation.
Even in the Bible, we were reading the other day, like God is a jealous God. God is a jealous God that he doesn't want you to to take his eyes out of your purpose.
Right.
You know, so when we start looking at it, if we create a window or a door because we're looking at the shiny objects or something that is more attractive, is because we are not focusing on what we have.
Right.
If you don't appreciate what you have, you're never going to get what you want.
And I love what you said about the serving heart too. I think that's something that, you know, we do it at the beginning, like he says, like, you know, we're serving and we're like up to like, okay, what do you need, honey, type of, you know, feeling. But then when you're in a long-term relationship, like you said, like, oh, she's going to be here. It doesn't matter what I do or what I say. She's going to be here. But I think that's the mentality that, you know, has changed for us too. Is like, it makes me feel so loved and so appreciated when I ask you for something. And I know this is something that's just changed the way that you are with me now. And I say now because in the past you weren't like this, if I'm being honest. You know, when I would ask you for something, or if I needed something, I would say, Raul, can you do this? Or can I ask you for something? And you'd be like, okay, you listen to me, but it wouldn't get done. Mm-hmm. And now I feel like when I ask you for something, you automatically get it done.
Man, it's so funny. I was talking to my friend yesterday, and he was asking me, what's the secret of you and Vivian being married for 25 years? And I told him, I said, you know, Vivian has mastered the way of getting me to do things for her by me wanting to do it. It's not like she's asking me, can you do this, can you do that? You've mastered the way of, like, if you ask me something, I want to do it for you. And I think because you've made so many deposits and you've learned how to ask, not in a nagging way, but in a way that makes me feel like, of course, I'm going to do it for you. Yeah, when do you want me to do it? Like, giving me the opportunity to show up when I am called to show up, as opposed to beating me down and telling me that I'm not doing enough.
And I think something that you said to me that's really important to say, to bring it up, is when I've asked, you automatically do it. And I don't, it's not like from a, like, I got to please her, I got to take care of her, but it's more like, because she's asking me, I know it's important. And honestly, I honestly feel this is like, you get it done so quickly that it makes me want to like do the same thing. So it's like, we kind of like outdoing each other in a good way, you know, like if you ask me for something, like today you asked me to do something, it literally took me an hour and a half to be on the phone with this person. And even though I was like, I wanted to curse you and like, you know, like I'm here in the phone call and I'm doing all these things for him, but I'm thinking like, I want to do this for him because he does so much more for me. So then I had a conversation with the guy, and then my energy shifted and I actually got the issue resolved. So is in that, like, how do we serve each other and always like give more than what you're getting?
And it goes back to mastering the way of how to ask.
I guess.
You know, and
I like that.
And it's funny because my son was asking yesterday, where did you get Mom for Valentine's Day? I said, no, she doesn't want anything. She texts me saying she's going to save her present for Mother's Day, right? Because I give you a budget. And he's like, my mom is always getting, what is she talking about a budget? She is always getting what she wants. All she has to do is ask. God. And I said, that's your mom. That's your mom. She knows how to ask to get what she wants, but it makes me want to give it to you even more.
Oh.
So I think that's the key here, from this video, is serving. Because I know that you love to serve. And then when we have a relationship where we're both serving each other, and like you said, who could serve more? Who could give more? It's like outgiving each other more, and that's where the connection rises.
Right. And it's the energy and the intention behind it, because I know, again, just going back to that, like that little shift, if your man is asking you for something, just think about if it was your kids. I think we're so quick to like get up and to get it done. Like, you want some water? Like, I'll get up and get it. But then if it comes to your husband, when he asks for something, then we're like, okay, you could get up and get it.
But not just the kids. I tell my guys all the time, treat your women as she was your best customer. Like, if you have a client right now that is paying you, let's say $1 million for working with you, right?
Oh,
he calls you up and he's asking you something. You're not going to say, well, I'll do it later. No, whatever you need. Like the service. Like sometimes in our business, we give the service to our clients, and then we don't give the service to our queens. Because
she's not going anywhere, because you know that you have her, because you know that, like, okay, she said I do one time, she's there for the rest of her life. That's not the truth. Like, you never know what could change. And I think that's like when we talk about, like, make those little deposits so you can have this relationship that continues to grow. Like, wherever you are, there's always a next level.
So the takeaway from this conversation is, number one is, don't have boring sex, okay? Schedule your time to have better sex. I mean, it doesn't have to be epic sex, all right?
Innovate.
you have to improve your sex life. Figure it out which way.
Learn something. Learn one new thing about sexuality.
Maybe introduce some toys, maybe some candies, maybe, there's so many things nowadays. Take the taboo out of like having the conversation. I think that's one of the things that I took away from that video as well, is like couples are not having these conversations because they feel a certain way. They're not open.
You got to make it fun.
Listen, if you're married over 10 years, man, you need to have this conversation. Just like if you're in business for 10 years, you need to innovate.
That's right.
You're going to be out of business if you're not innovate.
That's right.
The second thing that I took away from this is serving, right? If you want to have a long-term relationship, the marriage starts when shit hits the fan. That's when you know. I think there's another video that you showed me. Like,
which one?
That from Viola Davis.
Oh, yeah, she's amazing.
She said, like, the marriage starts when you want to kill him, right? The moment that you turn around and say, man, I want to kill this guy. I want to kill this woman. I want to kill.
Sounds harsh, but it's true.
But that's when you turn around and you say, well, I love this person. I can't live without this person.
Yeah.
So it all happens when you create that polarity, you create that yin and yang, you create that connection.
Yeah.
To be able to serve one another.
Serving.
So if you like this podcast, just make sure you follow us. Continue to send us your comments and your messages. Next week, we'll answer some questions. Happy Valentine's Day.
That's right.
You still have time
1 week
to do something.
Right? Next week is Valentine's?
Yeah, next week is Valentine's Day.
Oh, my goodness.
All right. We'll see you next time. Learn it. Live it.
Experience it. Love life.
If you receive any value from this conversation, comment, subscribe, and share as we continue to impact more people and take it to the next level.
And please send us your comments and questions so we could answer them in the next podcast.
See you in the next episode.